I previously spoke in the Fed chamber about this issue, and firstly I'd like to say that this is an issue where fair minds can differ. The amendments to Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act are not a watering down of this important piece of legislation. Rather, they act to strengthen them. Now, those opposite can sit there and mock and laugh, but that's exactly their modus operandi. Whenever anybody has a different view, they mock, they try and put those people down in an effort to silence them. Several weeks ago, when I stood in the Fed chamber, I argued for the repeal of Section 18C. Does that make me a racist? Those opposite might say yes. I'm not a racist, nor are any of the people in my electorate that have come to me and written to me and argued for something similar. But I acknowledge that a pragmatic approach to amend the legislation, to remove the subjective language in the provision, namely offend, insult and humiliate, and to address the many shortcomings in the administration of complaints made to the Australian Human Rights Commission. If those opposite seriously think that Section 18C requires no amendment, then they are clearly living with the fairies at the bottom of the garden. Tell that, Mr Deputy Speaker, to the QUT students who were dragged through the Commission. Tell that to the now-deceased Bill Leak. The Bill Leak case is another classic example which has compelled this government to act in the interest of all Australians. It is one of our fundamental tenets of our justice system that people can understand the laws that govern them. It is indisputable that the words offend, insult or humiliate is open to very different interpretations. It is subject to the vagaries of the sensibilities of those within earshot. What is offensive to one person may not be offensive to another. What is insulting to one person may not be offensive to another, or insulting to another. What is humiliating to one may not be humiliating to another. Add to this the problem that the current test is one where the offensive, insulting or humiliating words are judged against the views of the racial group of the complainant. This subjective test pits one group of Australians against another, because what is offensive, insulting or humiliating to one group of Australians may be entirely at odds with those of other Australians. The legal test sets Australians against their fellow Australians, the legal test that is currently enshrined in the legislation as is. The sensible amendments proposed by the government provide an objective test where the harassment or intimidating behaviour is judged in the eyes of the ordinary Australian. The amendments create a truly objective test. No reasonable Australian would support the intimidation of another person. No reasonable Australian would support the harassment of another person. The government wants to strengthen Section 18C by inserting protections in the— I'm having trouble reading my own writing— protections in the form of the word harass. It will be unlawful to harass a person or intimidate another because of their race, colour or national or ethnic origin. These sensible amendments provide much-needed certainty to a very uncertain provision. They provide the requisite degree of objectivity which many Australians are crying out for. Those opposite want to perpetuate the madness of political correctness. We are here to stop it.